everything in Donald Trump's administration is crashing and burning. And that includes the motorcade of Vice President J.D. Vance, who has been noticeably quiet recently. Have you seen J.D. Vance anywhere answering questions about Epstein, speaking up to defend Donald Trump? Because I haven't. It's almost like he's trying to protect himself as he sees Donald Trump drowning in the recently released 20,000 Epstein documents that proved how close their relationship was, how criminal it was, how disgusting it was, and JD is nowhere to be seen until his motorcade crashes. It's very interesting timing. But we are going to get into this breaking news. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into this crash, all the updates you need to know about Vance and why this is questionable timing for me. I want to start with the last time that there was a big problem with J.D. Vance's motorcade. It was only a few weeks ago in California, but it's important to keep in mind.
CHP said an artillery round exploded prematurely during a military tribute yesterday.
And CBS LA political reporter Tom Waite here now with new photos and the fallout. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, there was a big back and forth between Governor Newsom, the White House, and other people in the GOP saying that Newsom was just doing this for political reasons. And now tonight Newsom can say, well, you know, here's artillery that landed on the freeway. So, yeah, it was a chaotic few days leading up to this tribute at Camp Pendleton. Governor Newsom blasted the White House for having this tribute, saying firing artillery over the 5 freeway would be dangerous. The White House scoffed at Newsom and held the tribute anyway. Tonight, we're learning things did not go as planned. Newly released photos of 2 pieces of shrapnel the CHP says landed on or near their vehicles along I-5 near Camp Pendleton in the area where Governor Newsom ordered the freeway shut down. The CHP says the debris came from an explosive ordnance that detonated prematurely while it was over the freeway, striking and damaging a CHP patrol vehicle. One trooper said it sounded like pebbles falling. Governor Newsom posted this photo of what the artillery round looks like, saying it was no small thing. No injuries were reported, and the CHP says they immediately notified the Marine Corps at the scene, who then canceled firing additional live ammunition over the freeway.
Donald Trump is such a moron. And J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth are so insecure and obsessed with doing stunts that they quite literally blew up part of the highway in California. They were dropping bombs on California. I know. Donald Trump is happy to, indiscriminately kill extrajudicially anyone who's fishing off the coast of Venezuela. Because he's trying to start a war so that he can, 1, distract us from the Epstein files, and 2, make himself the most unpopular president in history. President for a 3rd term. That's not gonna work. And blowing up California isn't as well. But J.D. Vance is just as culpable in this incident as he is in everything happening in the administration right now. Judy Ansbach hasn't said anything specific about the Epstein files, and I want to get into why this timing is also interesting. But he did say this recently about Donald Trump's instincts.
He has better instincts about human beings than anybody that I've ever met. And again, the President of the United States, you think about this, you can't read every briefing and every detail about every single topic. 100 different things are coming into the Oval Office every hour, right? So part of it is you've got to be able to trust the people around you to delegate and to execute. But to have that trust for people, you've got to have very, very good instincts. And the president has an amazing ability to know when somebody's trying to get something over on him, when somebody's actually thinking about things in the best interest of the country. It's almost a supernatural ability to read human beings. And I've tried to learn as much as I can about it. And again, some of that is just his innate ability.
JD, Donald Trump almost blew you up on a trip in California, and you say that he has the greatest instincts ever. And what instincts has Donald Trump been showing off recently? What has he displayed? Donald Trump is obviously in clear cognitive decline. This is a man losing his mind, admitting to the very intense medical screenings he's been going through as he lashes out at his key allies who are abandoning him as they see the MAGA ship sinking, which it is. Do you think Thomas Massey or Marjorie Taylor Greene, and specifically Marjorie Taylor Greene, are speaking out of the goodness of their heart? No. They see where the political movement is going. And the same is true of Vance, who has, like I said, been notably quiet. Which is why, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, this right here. This crash feels pretty weird. Vance motorcade crash leaves police officer in critical condition. Maryville police officer FTO Justin Brown has been hospitalized following a crash during a motorcade for Vice President Vance. Brown was part of the dignitary protection detail for Vance Friday evening in Maryville, Tennessee, with the crash occurring at 6:11 p.m. local time. I'm not going to get conspiratorial, and this isn't a conspiracy. But I just want to point out that Vance has not been saying a lot lately. He hasn't been speaking on behalf of his buddy Donald Trump. This is someone who is way too online. He is constantly getting in Twitter fights because I guess being vice president under an administration that does literally nothing besides work to enrich itself and the other cronies and help get their criminal buddies off, whether it be pedophiles or insurrectionists, Donald Trump doesn't care. But JD is pretty active, right? He loves to tweet. He loves to get in the fights. So why hasn't he said anything? Why hasn't he said anything about Jeffrey Epstein? J.D. Vance was asked in his interview with Sean Hannity, the only thing that he's done recently in terms of media appearances. If he had been thinking about a presidential run come 2028, Vance gave the standard issue, I'm gonna see what happens in the midterms, but blah, 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 blah. But Vance is thinking about it, if you want to know. If Vance is thinking about running for president, obviously, the most obvious candidate, the person with the most desire to run for president, just listen to what he doesn't say about Epstein. I bet Donald Trump doesn't like that. Again, I don't want to suggest anything about what Donald Trump could or could not have done, but he does or does not want at Vance. But certainly recently, there hasn't been a lot of broing out there, right? There hasn't been a great relationship that I've seen. The last time that I saw J.D. Vance and Donald Trump interact, it was the day after the election. And what did Donald Trump say? Well, he was telling a story, and which he was in China. And all the ministers, Xi Jinping's government refused to talk, would not talk, sat in silence until they were called upon to speak. And he said, that's what Vance should do. I want to see that out of you, JD. You butt in too much. You need to shut up. And of course, it's a little quip, little small remark, but I don't know. Does Donald Trump now want J.D. Vance to be speaking? And he's not. I don't know. That's why you can really just tell everyone is in the last-ditch effort to get paid. Republican senators wanting to write themselves million-dollar checks for having their phones and their records seized looked into reviewed legally. By the way, after they were subpoenaed, they want to get paid. Donald Trump wants his third $230 million settlement from the DOJ, trying to give Michael Flynn a $50 million settlement from the DOJ, but it's not just them. Christine Noem as well is engaged in some corruption that has been completely overlooked that I think we need to take a look at in this report right here.
That in any era, any other era, I should say, would be a career-ending scandal. But to understand the pattern of corruption of this woman, we just have to zoom out just a little bit, just for a moment. Because since Noem took over DHS at the beginning of the year, she's become known for appearing to be more obsessed with putting on various costumes than doing her actual job. I mean, she donned a bulletproof vest just to talk to her own agents. She wore a Customs and Border Patrol uniform on Fox News. And of course, she is constantly, and I mean constantly, throwing on a cowboy hat and riding horses, always with plenty of cameras around to capture the moment. But Noem's apparent obsession with image actually goes much further than just putting on costumes. because she has directed more than 200 million taxpayer dollars into TV ads to promote her work at DHS. And just to put it in context, that is nearly twice what DHS spent on ads altogether in all of last year. And the content of those ads have already been a scandal kind of in and of themselves.
I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border.
And if you were wondering who exactly the target audience is for that, DHS spent $30,000 to run that ad, the one I just showed you, specifically in the ad market where Mar-a-Lago is. Now, as much as spending tens of thousands of dollars to make sure your ad plays on the TV near the president is a bizarre waste of taxpayer money, $30,000, it turns out, is a drop in the bucket compared to the more than $200 million DHS has spent this year making and airing ads. And the rest of that money is where the story gets truly bonkers. I mean, since March, we have known that DHS skipped the normal competitive bidding process when giving out the contracts to make and air these ads. DHS claimed that because Trump declared an emergency at the southern border, they didn't have to waste time getting competitive bids. And that brings me to the first part of ProPublica's big scoop today. Because it turns out that the majority of that no-bid contract money, 143 million taxpayer dollars, went to this kind of mysterious LLC in Delaware. An LLC that was created just days before it got that no-bid contract, just days. And the man who owns the home that LLC lists as its address did not respond to ProPublica's questions. Now, when asked why the agency chose that LLC, DHS said, quote, "The results speak for themselves," and then proceeded to claim that Trump has made the border the most secure it has been in American history. Not exactly answering the question. So DHS gave a $143 million no-bid contract to a brand new LLC that no one seems to know anything about. That is obviously a scandal enough to begin with. Then there's this. This is an ad Kristi Noem shot on October 2nd, which, by the way, was the second day of the government shutdown. So while hundreds of thousands of federal workers went without pay, including the nearly 50,000 TSA workers that work under Noem, Noem donned a cowboy hat and had a production company film her riding horseback with buffalo. And whether or not you care about the very weird content of the ad, you should care about who made it. Because according to ProPublica's new reporting, that ad was made by a company called Strategy Group, which is run by a man who is not only the husband of Noem's chief DHS spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin. Yes, she's a...
This is the Trump administration. It's corruption. It is backstabbing. It is chaos. It is crisis. And that's why we kind of have to be conspiratorial. At this point, I don't want to say that it's conspiratorial, because we are literally just asking questions from an administration that refuses to respond to them. But I think that's fine. I think that's okay. That's why we're going to continue. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let him silence you until next time. I'll see you soon.